Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. Did you lose a bet or something? That's what she said the moment I walked into the room. Her laughter exploded so loud it made the guy refilling drinks flinch. I froze at the entryway, holding the door handle like it might save me from drowning. Everyone turned to look, just for a second, but it was long enough. I felt it burn. The heat crawled up my neck, into my ears, across my scalp. She didn't stop laughing. She pointed at me with the same hand that used to hold mine on roller coasters. And she said it again, louder this time. Seriously, babe, what is that outfit? You look like you're auditioning for a 2007 prom night reboot. It wasn't the first time she'd made a scene, but this was the first time she didn't care that people were watching. I just stood there. I didn't even know what to say. My palms were sweating inside my jacket pockets, and I hated how warm my eyes felt. Like I was a kid about to cry after dropping his tray in a cafeteria. I hadn't felt that way in years. She was wearing that silver dress again, the one that made her look like she was made of glass and moonlight. That dress had history. I bought it for our anniversary 4 years ago, back when she used to smile with me, not at me. Her friend Dana stepped out of the crowd. She walked up to me, tilted her head slightly, and gave me the kind of slow, confident smile that makes you forget you're a joke to everyone else. Then she said it. Casual, clear, cutting through the noise like a knife dipped in honey. You look great, Curtis. My heart almost left my chest. She didn't laugh. She didn't smirk. She didn't whisper behind her hand. She just meant it. The silence between Dana's words and my wife's stare was deafening. Marla turned, but her smile didn't come back. Not even the fake one. No one else said anything. Not even the guy mixing drinks. That compliment, it wasn't just words. It was gasoline. Because that was the moment I knew something was off. Not just in my marriage. Not just at that party. But something fundamental. Like a truth I'd been too cowardly to see finally stood up, stretched its legs, and slapped me across the face. And that night, that was only the first domino. The ride home was suffocating. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. The only sound in the car was the faint hum of the tires on the road and her nails tapping against the glass of her empty wine tumbler. I didn't even ask why she took it from the party. We both knew she did it every time. Some small rebellion she liked to dress up as a quirk. I watched her reflection in the passenger window. She was chewing the inside of her cheek like she always did when she was annoyed, or guilty, or both. Her silver dress glinted every time we passed a streetlight. It should have looked beautiful. But all I could think about was how quickly she turned me into a joke in front of people she barely sees twice a year. My mind kept circling around Dana's voice. You look great, Curtis. No one had said that to me in a long time. And definitely not Marla. We pulled into the driveway, and she stayed seated, scrolling through her phone like she was waiting for something. Or someone. The screen lit up her face in soft blue, and I could see her smirk. Not the cruel kind from earlier, but the kind you accidentally let slip when you're enjoying something you shouldn't. I stepped out and walked toward the front door. She didn't follow right away. She stayed in the car for almost 5 minutes. I timed it. When she finally came inside, she didn't come to bed. She went straight to the kitchen and poured another glass of wine. Didn't even take off her heels. I heard the clink of her glass against the counter, followed by the buzz of her phone. A long pause. Another buzz. Then silence. I know I shouldn't have looked. But when you feel like a stranger in your own house, you start trying to reclaim territory in small, desperate ways. So while she was in the bathroom, I picked up her phone. The notifications were gone. Locked. But one thing stuck out. She never used nicknames for her friends and her contacts. Never. It was always full names. Dana Martinez. Lauren Field. Emma R. Even her mom was saved as Teresa Raymond. I once joked that she formatted her contacts like a tax accountant. But now, sitting there plain as day, was a single message preview from someone named Jay. No last name. Just a letter. Let me know when he's asleep. I put the phone down so fast it made a sound against the counter. My hand trembled a little, and I hated that I was so obvious. I walked back to the couch and pretended to be half asleep. She came out 5 minutes later, her lipstick smudged, phone in her hand. Didn't even glance at me. Walked right upstairs like I didn't exist. I laid there the entire night, staring at the ceiling, with that single sentence looping in my head. Let me know when he's asleep. She never told me who Jay was. She still hasn't. But that night, I started making a list. A real one. In the Notes app on my phone. A list of every strange thing I'd ignored over the past year. Missed calls. Random charges on the credit card. New clothes she claimed were on sale. Work events I wasn't invited to. The sudden locked screen on her laptop. The new perfume she said was a gift from Dana. By the time the sun came up, I had 23 entries. And number 24? That was the next morning, when she came downstairs in sweatpants and casually told me she'd be staying with Dana for a couple nights to clear her head. No explanation. No argument. No fight. She just left. And when I checked Dana's Instagram later that day, she was 400 miles away in Arizona with her boyfriend. So yeah, Marla wasn't staying with Dana. And whoever Jay was, he knew I was supposed to be asleep. I didn't confront her. Not immediately. I wish I could say it was because I was playing the long game, gathering evidence like some clever detective. But the truth? I was just scared. Scared that if I asked the wrong question, I'd get the right answer. The one I'd never unhear. When Marla left with her overnight bag and her blank expression, I told her, "Text me when you get there." She nodded. No eye contact, no kiss, like I was a hotel concierge. By the time she backed out of the driveway, I was already opening Find My Phone. We'd enabled location sharing a few years ago after a minor car accident she had on the interstate. It had quietly stayed on since then. She probably forgot, or didn't think I'd check. At first, the dot moved steadily toward Dana's side of town. My stomach twisted. I wanted to believe she was telling the truth. I really did. I was almost grateful for the opportunity to feel stupid, to be proven paranoid. I watched that little blue dot with the kind of faith people usually reserve for shooting stars or lottery tickets. But then she passed the exit, the one that would have taken her to Dana's place. Then she passed the next one, and the next, and 45 minutes later, she stopped at an address I didn't recognize. An apartment complex in a part of town we never went to. A section known for bars with XXX neon signs and 24-hour pawn shops. My ears started ringing. It was the same feeling I got in high school when I found out my dad had emptied my college fund to buy himself a boat he never even used. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the address, knowing exactly what I was supposed to do. Nothing. Pretend. Wait. Let it rot me from the inside until I either collapse or explode. But something cracked open in me that night. I wanted to see it. Not guess. Not spiral. See it. I copied the address, got in the car, and drove. Not fast. Not slow. Just numb. It was almost midnight when I got there. The parking lot was half lit, buzzing with the faint sound of someone's bad taste in music. I recognized her car immediately. Same dent in the back left from the time she backed into a trash can and laughed like it was the universe flirting with her. I didn't go to the door. That would have been suicide. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't even want proof in the form of sounds behind the wall or shadows in the blinds. I just wanted to feel the weight of the truth by proximity. I parked 2 spaces away and sat in the dark, gripping the steering wheel until the leather creaked. Her apartment light was on. The blinds were open just enough to see her silhouette move across the living room. And then I saw him. He walked up behind her and put his arms around her waist like it was routine, like he'd done it 1,000 times. She leaned into it, tilted her head, smiled. I couldn't see the expression clearly, but I knew that smile. I'd seen it in wedding photos, in candlelight, in moments when we used to share inside jokes and cheap red wine. Now it was on display like a show I wasn't invited to. I took a photo. I don't know why. Maybe to prove to myself later that it wasn't a dream. Maybe because I knew she'd deny it if I ever brought it up. Maybe because some part of me hoped I'd never need it, that I'd forget it ever happened. But I won't. Because here's where it gets worse. As I was about to leave, the guy stepped outside to smoke. I ducked low in my seat, heart pounding. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 3 inches, wearing a hoodie and jeans, pacing the sidewalk while scrolling through his phone. He lit a cigarette, took a drag, and just stood there, staring out into the night like he didn't just gut another man's marriage 5 minutes ago. And then his phone buzzed. He looked at it, smiled, typed something quickly, and I swear to you, 10 seconds later, my phone buzzed too. A text from Marla. "Hope you're asleep. I'll be back in a couple days. Don't wait up." I sat there in the car and realized something I hadn't let myself think until then. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a life without me, in real time. Texting me and him simultaneously, scripting 2 versions of her world, and hoping we never overlapped. She didn't forget to love me. She deleted me. And the man she replaced me with? He wasn't a stranger. Not completely. Because the next day, I did something I hadn't done in almost 2 years. I opened her old laptop. The one she said she wiped before giving it to me to use. Turns out, she didn't. I don't know what I expected when I opened that old laptop. Maybe a few leftover documents, a desktop full of blurry screenshots, or some half-deleted Pinterest boards from the early days of our wedding planning. But what I found was much worse. She never wiped it. Not even close. Her browser history, cloud backups, cookies, everything was still there. It was like stepping into a digital ghost town of our old life. A snapshot frozen in time from when things hadn't yet rotted. It took less than 5 minutes before I found the email account she said she deleted after switching jobs. The same one she promised she only used for work stuff. Password was the name of her childhood dog and the year we got married. The kind of password people use when they think no one would ever dare check. Once I was in, the first thing I saw was a thread of starred emails titled Novak. Some from her, some from him. Novak. That name hit me like a hammer. Not because I knew him personally, but because I remembered her mentioning him once. Maybe twice. Back when she worked at a boutique architecture firm 2 years ago. She called him barely functional, laughed about how he always dropped his coffee and made bad puns. Said he was harmless. The kind of man you forget the moment he walks away. Except apparently, he never did walk away. I opened one of the older emails. It was dated nearly 20 months ago. She had sent him a PDF of some marketing materials, and he responded with a meme and something that made my stomach turn. You should wear red more often. Just saying. And right underneath it, she replied, you should stop flirting. Just saying, face blowing a kiss. I sat there, scrolling. Page after page. Joke after joke. Then came the attachments. A photo of her hotel room view, followed by his reply calling her trouble. Another of her in a mirror selfie wearing that exact silver dress she mocked me in last week, the one I bought her. And the worst one? A message from just 5 months ago. He's home more often now. I don't know how to get away without raising suspicion. Followed by his reply. Then don't. Just live like nothing's wrong. You're good at pretending. I stared at the screen for so long the laptop dimmed itself. It wasn't just the messages. It was the time. The timeline. This had been going on not for weeks or months, but for almost 2 entire years. While I was planning surprise anniversary trips. While I was waking up early to fix her car battery. While I was rubbing her feet after her long days and wondering if she still loved me, she was with him. And all that time, I thought I was being paranoid. Insecure. Too sensitive. She told me I read into things too much. She said I was too emotional for a man. That I was exhausting. And I believed her. I blamed myself when she stopped touching me. When she stopped laughing with me. When she stopped coming to bed. I thought I was the reason she always looked distracted. Like she was stuck in another life. And in a way she was. Because that life didn't include me. There was one more email. The most recent one, from 3 days ago. It was short. Just one line. I'm going to tell him soon. No reply from Novak. I shut the laptop. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to grip the edge of the table to stay upright. There wasn't even any anger left. Just silence. Cold and hollow. Like someone had vacuumed all the warmth out of the house and left me to sit in its echo. And then my phone buzzed. It was Marla. Hey, mind feeding the dog? I forgot. Be back tomorrow night. That dog used to sleep at our feet. Now it slept alone in the corner of the room while she played house with someone who called her trouble and told her to keep lying. I fed the dog. Then I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sat back down at the table, and stared at the photo I took from the parking lot. Her in his arms. Her in my jacket, the one I used to wear when we'd go stargazing in the park behind our first apartment. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew what I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. She came home the next night like nothing happened. Keys jangling, heels clicking on the hardwood, tossing her bag onto the counter like she'd just returned from yoga or brunch. Her voice was light, too light. That fake casual tone people use when they're walking through a crime scene pretending not to see the blood. Hey, babe, she said as she opened the fridge. Did you eat? There's leftover curry if you want some. I told her I wasn't hungry. She kissed my forehead like I was a child. Not on the lips. Just a cold, absent press of skin, like checking if I had a fever. I didn't ask where she was. I didn't mention Dana. I didn't ask who Jay was. I didn't say a single thing. And that scared her more than if I'd screamed. She kept watching me from the corner of her eye, waiting for the trap. But there was none. Just silence. Just me, sitting in the living room, laptop closed, pretending to read a book I'd already finished last year. I noticed she didn't take her phone upstairs that night. She left it charging in the kitchen. That was new. A performance. Like she wanted to prove she had nothing to hide, right after hiding everything for 2 years. The next morning, while she showered, I turned on the old digital voice recorder I found in my drawer. It still worked. I had used it back when I was writing short stories. Thought I could dictate thoughts while driving. I never did. But it had 12 hours of recording time and a fresh battery. I slid it behind the stack of books on her side of the bed and left it running. I didn't know what I was hoping to catch. Maybe a whispered call. Maybe a confession to herself. Maybe nothing at all. But that same night, around 11:30 p.m., she left the bedroom to grab a snack. She was gone for 16 minutes. The next morning, I took the recorder to my car, locked the doors, and played it back. I heard the bedroom door creak. Her footsteps crossing the room. Silence. Then the buzz of her phone on vibrate. A few swipes. And then, her voice. Soft. Murmured. Almost apologetic. I know. But I couldn't say anything. He was right there. He's suspicious, I can tell. No, not yet. I said I would. But, Jesus, can we not do this now? I can't think. Then more silence. A muffled reply on speakerphone. Too distorted to make out words. But then she said something that flipped my stomach inside out. He'll fold. He always does. He doesn't have the spine for confrontation. Fold. Like I was a lawn chair. Something to collapse. Something that doesn't stand. I turned off the recorder. My hands were numb. I stared at the steering wheel so long the neighborhood dog came and went twice without me noticing. She wasn't just cheating. She resented me. And somehow, she still thought she was the smart one. That she could juggle both lives, and I'd never grow a backbone strong enough to disrupt it. So I changed the rules. That day, I made 4 copies of the recordings. Stored one on a USB I taped behind the toilet tank in the guest bathroom. Another went on a password-protected cloud folder. The third on an old iPod I kept in the garage. The fourth? On a blank CD I mailed to my brother with no return address. Just in case. Then I started talking. Not to her. Not yet. To the one person who could play the long game with me. Dana. I messaged her casually. Thanked her for the compliment at the party. Told her it meant a lot. That I was having a rough time, and it helped more than she knew. She replied in under 5 minutes. I thought you knew. Marla told me you two were separated. I stared at the screen. My heart rate doubled. Triple-checked the message. Separated? I asked what she meant. No reply. I waited 5 minutes. 10. Then she typed. I shouldn't have said anything. It's not my place. Sorry. And she blocked me. Just like that. Which meant 2 things. 1, she knew. Probably not everything, but enough. And 2, Marla had already begun rewriting the story of our marriage to everyone around her. Telling people we were taking space, or emotionally checked out, or just roommates now. But we weren't roommates. She still wore her ring. She still introduced me as her husband at parties. She still asked me to take out the trash and feed the dog and help her parents fix their router. She wanted all the benefits of a husband with none of the cost. And now I knew exactly how long she'd been preparing to remove me. So I made a plan. Not revenge. Revelation. I told her I was going away for the weekend. A library conference in Denver. Just a small panel on archival digitization. The kind of event no one asks questions about because it sounds unbearably boring. Marla barely looked up from her phone when I told her. She just nodded and said, "Cool. Travel safe?" As if I'd said I was going to the grocery store. I didn't even pack a suitcase. Just drove around the block, parked on the next street over, and walked back to the house with my hood up after midnight. I wasn't running away. I was hunting ghosts. Earlier that week, I'd installed a small $19 spy app on the old iPad we used for Spotify in the kitchen. You'd be surprised how much a person forgets when they stop seeing a device as theirs. I set it to record audio and video when motion was detected within 15 feet. Then I left it charging by the spice rack, screen off, front camera aimed straight at the kitchen island. The spot she liked to lean on when she was sipping wine and talking to Dana on speakerphone. And yes, I tested it first. On myself. I said a few lines out loud, walked across the room, left the house for an hour, and came back to check the footage. Clear as day. It worked. So I left it running, walked away from my own house, and waited to see what came crawling in after dark. I spent that night in my car 2 blocks away, parked in the back lot of a shuttered pet store. My only companions were a thermos of bitter coffee and my own spiraling thoughts. I felt pathetic, like a third-rate spy in a suburban soap opera. But underneath the shame, there was something else. Rage. Not hot, explosive rage. Not the kind that makes you yell or throw things. This was quieter, heavier, like standing waist-deep in ice water while watching your house burn down and realizing the fire alarm never even went off. At 9:42 p.m., I got the alert. Movement detected. Video recording started. I waited 3 hours before going back. I didn't want to risk walking in during whatever it was. When I finally crept into the house at 2:51 a.m., it was dark, quiet, and still smelled like wine and her shampoo. She wasn't home. Her car was in the driveway, but she wasn't in bed. The couch was undisturbed. No note. No lights. No sign of struggle. Just emptiness. And silence. I checked the footage. The app had recorded 4 clips that night. The first was her walking into the kitchen in leggings and a sweater, talking on the phone. Her voice was low, but audible. He's gone. Finally. Yeah, until Sunday. No, he still doesn't know. I told you, he never pushes. That's what makes this easy. I paused the video. My hands trembled. The next clip showed her pouring wine, pacing. Then a knock. A man's voice. I couldn't make out the words, but it was casual. Familiar. He came inside. She hugged him. A deep, full-body hug, not a polite greeting. The kind of embrace that tells a history. The third clip was just background. Murmurs. A few jokes. Laughter. Her laugh. That same laugh she weaponized against me in public. And then her voice again, this time more serious. I just want it to be over without drama. He's sad. Not angry. He'll let go. He always lets go. And finally, the last clip. 10 seconds long. Her voice, close to the mic. Almost like she leaned on the counter and whispered it into the air itself. He's already halfway gone. He just doesn't know it yet. I watched it 5 times. 10. And I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't smash the iPad. I just stood there in my own kitchen, in my own house, and felt like I was trespassing. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It was the performance. The rehearsal. The narrative she was building, not just for herself, but for everyone else. A story where she was the quiet hero trying to escape a loveless shell of a marriage, and I was the tragic, passive footnote. And that's when I saw it. In the reflection of the spice rack, barely visible, but there, a glimpse of his face. He turned just enough, laughing at something she said. And I knew him, not just from the parking lot, not just from the emails. He was in our wedding photos. Not as a guest, as a coworker. Her old office buddy from 3 jobs ago. She once made me drive him to the airport when his car broke down. I bought him a gas station sandwich on the way and gave him my hoodie when he forgot his jacket. Novak, the man I had helped, the man I had fed, the man I had once, very stupidly, called solid. The man who was now in my house, in my kitchen, with my wife. The camera timestamp read 11:58 p.m. That meant he'd left before I returned at 2:51. That meant they were careful, but not careful enough. Because now I had more than suspicion, more than audio, more than email threads and hunches. I had video. I had her own voice, betraying her carefully built lies. And for the first time in 2 years, I realized I wasn't the passive one. I was just the last one to stop pretending. The night I invited her to dinner, she didn't hesitate, didn't ask questions, didn't look suspicious. That told me everything I needed to know. She was still under the illusion that I was wilting, still thinking I'd fade away on my own, quietly, conveniently, like a temporary side character in the tragedy of her reinvention. I set the table like it was nothing. 1 candle, cheap wine, pasta from a box I gussied up with garlic and Parmesan so it looked homemade. She came downstairs in a loose dress, barefoot, glass of wine already half gone, and gave me that smile, the one she wore when she needed something. Affection, forgiveness, a future. You didn't have to do all this, she said, brushing a piece of hair behind her ear like a woman from a Hallmark movie. I wanted to, I replied, and I did. Just not for the reason she assumed. We ate slowly. She asked about the conference I never went to. I fed her a story about a keynote speaker who mispronounced archival and a funny barista with a mullet. She laughed. She actually laughed. God, I wish I could forget how easy it was for her. How convincing. If I didn't know what I knew, I would have believed she was happy. I would have believed she was mine again. Have you thought about couples therapy? she asked, swirling her wine like she was trying to hypnotize me. I think we've been out of sync. You know? Like, we lost our rhythm somewhere. That's what she called it. Out of sync. As if cheating was just an offbeat note in a duet we could re-record. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, yeah, I've been thinking about what we lost. She smiled and reached across the table for my hand. I let her. And in that moment, I watched her pretend we were healing. I watched her rehearse the script of the good wife, trying to fix her marriage. But beneath the performance, I saw something else. Calculation. She thought she was buying herself more time. That she was managing me. Cooling the temperature just enough to keep the lies from boiling over. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad anymore. I was watching her dig her own grave, teaspoon by teaspoon, with every word she spoke. After dinner, she did something strange. She offered to wash the dishes. That was new. Marla hadn't washed a dish in 6 years unless guests were watching. I stood in the kitchen doorway as she scrubbed plates like she was scrubbing her conscience, humming an old Fleetwood Mac song we used to play on road trips. I almost asked her if Novak liked that band too. Instead, I asked, do you remember when we drove to Santa Fe? When your tire exploded on that dirt road? She turned, surprised, maybe a little relieved by the normalcy of the question. Yeah. God, that was a nightmare. Why? I just remembered how scared you looked, and how you held my arm the whole ride back. Her eyes softened. You saved me that day. No, I said quietly. You just thought you needed saving. She didn't reply, just stared for a beat too long, and then went back to rinsing. Later that night, as she slept upstairs, same soft breathing, same position, same woman, I sat on the couch and uploaded the video to a secure drive. I wrote out a single-page document detailing everything I knew, attaching clips, screenshots, and a statement of timeline. No threats, no accusations, just a full narrative, truthful, time-stamped, and quietly devastating. I placed the envelope in a fireproof lockbox in the back of my closet. One copy for myself, one scheduled to email to her family's lawyer, someone I remembered from a Christmas dinner 2 years ago. If anything happened to me or the contents of the folder. Paranoia? Maybe. But now that the mask had dropped, I couldn't pretend she wouldn't go further to protect her version of the story. She wasn't the woman I married. She was something else now, something polished and practiced and cold-blooded enough to burn down a marriage just to warm her new one. But here's what she didn't know. The next morning, she was going to receive a package. From Dana. And it would contain something that didn't exist on any device or server. A voice recording. Of her. At the party. Mocking me. In front of Dana. That recording had sat on Dana's phone for months, forgotten, saved by accident during a video that was never posted. Dana found it a week ago, remembered what she said to me that night, and finally decided to listen. And when she did, she messaged me, unblocked me, and said, simply, I didn't know how far it went. I'm sorry, but you deserve to hear this. I hadn't sent the video files to Marla yet. I hadn't exposed the emails. I hadn't shown her the footage from the kitchen, because I didn't need to. I just had to wait for her to hear her own voice, the ugliness of it, the cruelty, the derision, and let her ask herself one question. If this is what I say about him in public, what else have I been pretending not to be? The package arrived on a Tuesday. I heard the thud of it hitting the porch while I was upstairs organizing old photo albums. Not because I cared about the photos. I was removing her from them. Not with scissors, but with intent. I was deciding what I wanted to carry into the next chapter of my life, and what I was finally done dragging behind me. She found it before I did. I heard her footsteps on the porch, then the tear of cardboard, and the unmistakable rattle of a USB drive inside a small padded envelope. I stayed upstairs, gave her space. She plugged it into her laptop in the kitchen, and for the next 42 seconds, there was only silence. Then came the voice. Her voice, clear as glass, mocking, laughing, cutting me down in front of everyone. The thrift store magician comment, the photo she took of me as a joke, the way she spoke to Dana like I was a stray dog who accidentally followed her to a party. She had never heard herself like that before. And when she did, the silence afterward was longer than the recording itself. She didn't come upstairs. She didn't call out my name. She just stood there, motionless, while the audio replayed itself again on loop. Then a drawer opened, then closed, then footsteps. Slow, barefoot. She came to the bottom of the staircase and just stood there, looking up at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. But it was her who'd changed. I didn't realize, she said finally, her voice dry. I don't even remember saying that. I was drunk. I was trying to. No, I said gently, coming down a step. You weren't trying. You were revealing. She opened her mouth to speak again, but I raised my hand, not out of anger, just control. I know everything, Marla. About Novak. About the messages. The nights you said you were with Dana. The apartment. The recordings. She stared at me in stunned silence. Not because I said it cruelly, but because I said it calmly. You made your choices, I continued. I made mine. Her expression crumbled in slow motion. She looked around the room like it might offer her a place to hide. But the walls didn't love her anymore. The kitchen didn't forgive her. The air had changed, and she felt it. I guess you hate me, she whispered, barely audible. I stepped down the last stair and stood across from her, close enough to touch, but I didn't. No, I said softly. I just stopped making excuses for you. And with that, I handed her an envelope. Inside, the notarized divorce papers, already signed. I had filed that morning. I had asked for nothing. No alimony. No property dispute. No drawn-out court battle. I just wanted out. She flipped through the pages like she was trying to delay the reality. Her hands shook. She sat down slowly on the bottom step and stared at the signature. Mine. Clean. Confident. I'll sign, she said finally, with a trembling nod. I won't fight it. I know, I said. I turned and left the house. Took a long walk around the block. The air tasted different. Lighter. Like it was mine again. By the time I returned, she was gone. No tantrum. No drama. Just silence. She had taken her keys, her purse, and nothing else. No suitcase. No toothbrush. She didn't even take the bottle of wine in the fridge. I think part of her knew she didn't belong there anymore. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, she felt the weight of that. Over the next few weeks, I cleared the house of her energy. Not just her stuff, but her presence. Her scent on the pillows. Her playlists on the speakers. Her sarcasm echoing in the hallway. I painted the bedroom. I rearranged the furniture. I opened every window and let the light in. And slowly, day by day, the house started to feel like mine. And so did I. I didn't rebound into someone new. I didn't go looking for validation or vengeance. I planted a small herb garden. I joined a community book club. I took my old road bike out of the garage and rode it down to the lake every Saturday. I started laughing at things again. Not because someone else made me feel worthy, but because I was. Last week, I got a letter from Dana. A real one. Handwritten. She thanked me for not becoming bitter. She told me I inspired her to walk away from a relationship she'd been faking for too long. She said she hoped I'd never forget how much grace it takes not to burn it all down. And I haven't. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't fire. It's freedom. And now, I'm free.